Kevin Warren, yesterday, several reports came out that the Big Ten is in a little flux. Their media rights deals not yet completed on one hand, and then on another issue, he actually gave away the title game apparently to NBC without having the full authority to do so. And I don't know if that has anything to do with him leaving, but now he's not here. It's kind of a not. It's kind of a rough. It's not going to hurt the Big Ten. They're going to come through it just fine. They're going to put the dots on the I's and cross the T's, and they're going to cash the checks. So That's the most important thing. That's not going to change, but it's not a good look for him, but he doesn't care. He's got a great job. It's never going to affect him. Does it affect the league in any way?
Well, I don't think, I mean, I think there is some impact financially over the make good that they'll have to conjure for the Big Ten championship game issue. I think it will affect them, and that's from that standpoint. It's like when you're a super wealthy individual and you're let's say you're the primary shareholder in a company like Apple, say, and Apple goes down. I mean, it affects your net worth, but you're still rich. Now, that kind of thing. The Big Ten schools will be fine. There are much bigger financial problems at other colleges and other leagues. This will not affect them greatly, but it is a thing. It's something that they maybe shouldn't have had to spend their money on, so to speak. There were elements of the article that Pete Thamel did on ESPN. It's a very well done article. There are elements of the article that surprised me that Warren would do that, and that they wouldn't have unanimity on the Saturday night package with NBC. If you're going to do those kinds of things, I mean, you should have everybody already on board before you say, okay, we're going to do Saturday night NBC package. At the time, it didn't seem like there was any problem with that. When they were announcing it, I didn't hear any complaints at all. And I don't know why everybody would say, okay, and then come back later and say, well, we don't have to play then. If you had an objection, maybe it should have been, or it should have been acknowledged by the people doing the negotiating. In this case, I presume former Commissioner Warren. It should have been acknowledged, and it should have been made clear that was the case, or it should have been negotiated with the affected schools so that, look, we're going to do this. It's going to make everybody a lot of money. You got to kind of get back on board so we can sign this deal. So I'm surprised that was not covered in advance by the commissioner. He took a lot of criticism early in his tenure that wasn't fair because he walked into a hurricane. He starts on January 1st or whatever, 2nd, 3rd, whatever day it was. He starts at January, and then less than 4 months later, he's got a full-blown pandemic on his hands that forced the cancellation of the men's and women's basketball tournament, the wrestling championship, the hockey championship, and then all of spring sports. That's not on him, and yet and then affected the first football season of his tenure. And everybody wanted to blame him for every decision that was made, and he was walking into a circumstance for which there was no playbook. I didn't think that was fair. But you want to criticize him for this on the way out the door? I think that's reasonable.
And I agree with that. But does that not make some of the previous brings it? Yes, there were circumstances that would have been trouble for anyone, but I think some of the decisions probably were made by someone who doesn't make good decisions. And this is kind of bearing that out more so. And not only that, he makes decisions on his own because who doesn't know that Fox owns 60% of BTN? Apparently he does it because he gave away their title game to another network, their competitor, which it's mind-boggling to me. I'm like, dude, I know that Fox owns 60% of that. So what the hell are you thinking?
I don't know. That's one that is baffling to me. As I said, the pandemic stuff, as I said, there's no playbook for that. But television negotiations and things like that, that's what he's been doing his whole career. Some not necessarily television, but some form of business negotiation, legal, and he's an attorney, some sort of business negotiation. That's been his whole career. So in this circumstance, there was a playbook. It's the playbook he's been operating by since he left Notre Dame Law, basically. And yet he comes here and comes to this position, and he doesn't have a full understanding among the membership of what the NBC package would entail and how the Big Ten title game thing happened. I don't understand. I don't know, and I don't get it, how that could have happened. So as I said, I think that the criticism of that is understandable without a doubt. And at the end, it's still a win. I mean, it's still it's still a huge win for the Big Ten financially. And when you see what's going on with the ACC and the complaints coming out of that league that are based at least partially, probably 50% on what the Big Ten will be collecting over the next several years, and probably the other 50% over what the SEC will be collecting. So
how screwed is the ACC? I mean, how the ACC is, they are so screwed from their media rights deal. You want to talk about horrible. They are handcuffed to a tow truck going down the road in the wrong direction. They can't do anything to help themselves benefit till what, 2036 or something crazy. Right. I'm like, oh my God, who signed that contract?
All 15 schools signed that contract. Every one of them. Now they got benefits out of that they're not acknowledging now. They got the ACC network started, which is a significant media presence. It's national in scope. It's also available in most, if not all, of the areas they want to recruit. So
that's something that will be great, I think. It takes time, because as you know, with the Big Ten network, the Big Ten was just smart enough to do it first. But man, right, they're the leader and they're out in front right now. It's going to take a while for ACC to get to that point.
Well, I don't know if they're ever going to get to that point, but they have a significant presence with it. It's available on the ESPN app. If you're a streamer person, it's available on cable networks. It's available on DirecTV, which I get. So it's universal if you want it. And again, so they're ignoring the benefits they get from that, from why they made that decision, which was the ESPN didn't want to start a network if people were going to be bolting in 3 years. So it's like, if you're in, and they're in, and now they're complaining about it because the Big Ten is in and making more money. So, and that takes us back around to that although there are significant flaws apparent based on Pete's reporting, there are significant flaws apparent in the contracts that they're going to sign. They're still extremely lucrative and extremely advantageous. And so it should have been flawless or seamless. It's not, but it still is successful. The Big Ten membership at the end of this deal will be very happy that they have signed it, because they'll have made more money from a broadcast revenue standpoint than any other conference. And in some cases, they'll be making more than take the SEC out of the equation, they'll be making more than any two of the other Power Five. Combine the Pac-12, ACC, not as much. Combine Big 12, Pac-12, not as much. So that's how advantageous this circumstance is for the Big Ten. So let's not lose sight of that.